St. Anthony, Maine, Minneapolis, St. Paul International Film Festival. We've been covering this festival for so many years, and I started with the Milgram, in the 70s and the 80s when he started the Film Society at U of M. It was a great loss for us. Now we lost him a couple of years ago. His legacy is really zooming around, and everywhere you look, you can see Al's imprint here. So this festival is a great festival. It is the first full-blown festival on location, St. Anthony, Maine, and other few venue after COVID. And so this is really where people are coming in groves to see and enjoy the venue, enjoy the experience of the International Film Festival. So we're going to talk to two people that are really behind the scene. We're going to talk to Jesse Bishop. He's a director of programming, and also we're going to talk to Craig Rice. He's also a programmer, a filmmaker, a critic. Is a very articulate, know a lot about film, and we're going to talk about what to expect this year and what movie you should watch for, and some of the movie coming from the Middle East, exciting movie. I just saw one a couple of days ago, Cairo Conspiracy, and I think the original name, The Boy of Heaven, something like that. And it's a great movie from the Swedish-Egyptian director, Tariq Saleh, and the Hilton Hotel incident, I think he did that, a contractor, other movie, feature movie, documentary. He's a graffiti artist in trade. And it's a wonderful movie, and I think this is one of I know it's fictional, and a fictional movie, he wrote it himself, but it's one of the most serious movie about the conflict in Egypt between Al-Azhar and the state. I recommend that movie. Go ahead and see it. Even if you missed it at the festival, find out about it. It's a great movie, great story. It's how it's been told, and it's really wonderful. Well done, Tariq.
حاجة يا شيخ
زي ما انتم عارفين شيخ الازهر توفى امبارح. خيار الشيخ الجديد قضية الامن الوطني بالدرجة الاولى. الرئاسة عايزة الببلاوي. خلوهم يختاروه.
انا اتكشفت، انت خليني اخبرهم.
شوف لي ملك جديد، ويفضل يكون طالب جديد لسه بشوفه.
ادم هو نموذج للطالب المثالي.
عندكش قرايب هنا في مصر؟ لا، محتاجينك تساعدنا. احنا بنعتقد ان الاخوان اخترقوا الازهر. صلي وتشوف لي كمان مين تاني بيصلي. احفظ لي اشكالهم، اعرف اسمائهم.
ادم، ايه العكه اللي حطيت نفسك فيها دي؟
تشتغل لحساب مين؟
عندي شوية معلومات هنا فضل.
سمعة الازهر كله هتتمرمغ في التراب.
انت عارف ايه حكم المرتد؟ الاعدام.
We're going to meet with the people behind this festival. They work for a whole year to bring you this wonderful venue. I think it is the longest international film festival in the nation. They left here. We have Jesse Bishop. He is a director programmer. He's been with the festival for years. And on my right here, Craig Rice. He is the lead programmer here in the festival. And both of them, they approach the festival different ways. Let's just talk about the festival itself. This is probably the first full festival after COVID. And, welcome to the show, Jesse. I mean, we've been missing this venue for 3-4 years now, for COVID and all of that. Last year it was not full-blown, right?
Yeah, we returned in person last year, but this is fully back. And, it was good that we were able to adapt over the COVID years. We survived. We brought movies online the way everybody was watching movies at that time, because we still wanted to get the stories out by the artists that are continuing to work. But we're so happy to be back in person at the main cinema to be watching the movies the way they were intended by their makers, in a dark room together.
Well, this is the 42nd film festival. So, what to expect from this festival?
We've now been operating the main cinema. We took over St. Anthony Main Theater and revamped it and cleaned it up, upgraded some of the projection systems, and so we've created a new experience for the festival. In terms of the programming, I'm happy to say it's actually more of the same, in that it's international and independent cinema, trying to find a wide breadth of new film from around the world. And we've kind of taken a different approach to conversations in the festival, so we bring in a lot of filmmakers and directors and then build conversations around their films. And we also have panels and things like that. And this year we're placing a lot of those panels inside the movie theaters following the films, so that folks who come to the movies can experience that sort of expert elaboration right there in the cinema.
That's great. Craig, how many movies we've seen to bring out this experience?
I mean, I counted probably a couple hundred now. I've seen a little bit more than a couple hundred, but this is, I mean, shorts and feature length films. But I think this has been a really one of the for me, it's been one of the more successful festivals that I've created since we've been here. I think the films have been, and Jesse and I have talked about this, have been more intense, more introspective. I think the COVID caused people to sort of look inward for their stories and find more global topics and personal topics than I've seen before in the past. And I think that's great, because I think film is about communication. It's humanity talking to humanity, and I think that's the importance of the festival. And I know that for me, this independent international festival is really important because it brings the world together, which is obviously what we need more of. Huh? Yeah, well, we need it now more than probably ever in our history, you know? Yeah.
I know people will always ask you what are criteria, how you pick the films, but let's start with some of the film you didn't pick and you wish you had.
Reverse, yeah, reverse. I mean, I think that one thing that we had was several films by Native American filmmakers. We do have 2 of them in the festival, but we couldn't take them all. I think that was one thing that we had talked about it, but if they, we can't take them all. I mean, that's just possible. And then I think that some of the other films that I think that I remember that I liked were more focused topics on farming. We have 2 films in the festival that are about farming. Again, we can't do more on farming because, again, everybody is food and around, not just here but around the world, is an issue. I think that I try not to I personally try not to book films that are have a political agenda, a real specific political agenda. I mean, everybody has the belief that they believe, and I don't think our festival should have that. That's like 19B, which is, we talked about it before. It was one of the films that I saw. Yeah, Egypt, yes, and I saw that film and I liked it a lot. It was a different kind of film than I had seen previous to that, but I thought the story radiated, maybe because as I'm getting older, I know what it's like to be getting older, and how his situation where he can't do what he used to be able to do. He couldn't protect himself or fight back the way he did when he was younger, so he has to use his mind to do that, and I liked that film. I also liked another really strong narrative documentary called Lakota Nation versus the U.S., which is really one of the films I thought had an incredibly strong visual film, but also deals with how Native Americans in America were sort of put upon and disenfranchised and basically sort of almost destroyed by the United States in its efforts.
Well, we haven't seen a lot of movies about Native Americans.
No.
Festival.
Yeah, no. We have a couple this festival. We have Ojibwe Warrior, which is about Dennis Banks and beginning of AIM, and then we have this one here. So we try to look for them, and the films that we get, not only do we get the films and the filmmakers, we try to get people from the Native community to talk about the films in the theater. What Jesse was talking about we're making more of the panel conversations, Q&As happen right after the film. So we're doing that.
Jesse, how many films in the festival today altogether?
Altogether, just approaching 200. there's 124 feature-length films and about 90 shorts. So,
how many countries are we talking about?
we're talking about 70 countries and as many cultures.
Well, this is a huge undertaking. So, what was your sleeping accommodation in the last month or two?
Well,
how do you do it?
Yeah, right. A team of great people. We've got a team of about 8 curators that travel around the world all year long to go to film festivals and watch movies by the filmmakers that we love. And then we all get together over the winter months and sort of bring our favorites, and we talk about how we're going to piece it all together and stitch it. And yeah, it's a labor of love and something that I hope it shows. And really, it's just finally nice to have the film festival rolling again and having audiences in the theater seeing the work.
Green thing, you have to make some decisions.
Yeah, so, basic criteria, we're looking for new work that's created in the past year. And then, we really leave it up to the curators for it's ultimately subjective, what they think they should bring to the program, and we respect that. In terms of, finding balance is really important. What Craig was speaking to, we can't have a dozen films on farming, but it's an issue that is coming up in the work that we're seeing, so we want to make sure we're giving it voice and representation, of course. To your point about what didn't get into the festival, well, there's a lot of really great work that we saw coming out by female-identifying filmmakers that, for various reasons, we couldn't pull into the festival, but will make its way to our screens over the course of the year. But it's very important for us to be offering space to female-identifying filmmakers as well as filmmakers of color, but we're proud to say that 40% of the feature films in the program were directed by female-identifying directors. So we're making progress there.
1 year was the year of the woman. I don't know what year it was.
Yeah. I mean, so it's been a few years where we've been intentionally trying to reach a parity and sort of breaking down the standard Hollywood model, which is very few.
It's male-oriented, I suppose.
Yeah,
I don't want to pick up you because you're African American, but speaking of movie people of color, what's the representation through the years, not just today?
I think the representation is getting better from African American filmmakers in general. I think part of it is gotten so popular, not just with us, but with the streaming services and stuff, that a lot of times there's films that we would like to get, or we choose to get picked up by the streaming service, and then we can't show them. Yes. But we have this year. We did Sam Pollard. He is our luminary tribute, our Milgram filmmaker, and he's an African American. He's made over 130 films as a producer, director, and editor, mostly documentary films. And we have 3 of his films in the festival, or 4 of his films in the festival this year, and 2 new ones and some retros that we brought in just to kind of balance it out. We also had a really incredible filmmaker, first-time director, who did a film called The Angry Black Girl and Her Monsters, which was a retelling, kind of a Frankenstein story from an urban. No, it's really interesting. She finds death. Her mother and her brother have gotten killed in their neighborhood, and she believes death is a disease and needs to be cured, and so she uses her mind and her science to try to cure death, and so we know the Frankenstein story.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, right. This is cinema, so it's a story, but
go ahead.
Yeah, no. So again, we have several other films like that we have. So for Black or African American filmmakers. And I also include those with the Africans, and we have a number of African films that I think
about them or by them.
Yeah, about them or by them in the festival too, and I think they're excellent. I think this year, I think the level of quality is really improved, and the African cinema overall. So
Barbara Sharp is a great venue telling a story about African.
As a young man, I mean, that's where, as a young person, that's where you found the adults. I mean, in a collection. And a lot of times the barbershop was one of the black businesses that black people could have in the cities. And so they were usually owned by black people. So there was a collection, and people would go there, not even getting their hair done, just go there, to hang out and talk. And so you heard the political process, storytelling, yes. And so as a young person, you wanted to go just because you wanted to be around these guys telling these stories that you probably wouldn't have gotten any other way, and there were lessons in the stories they were telling you. And I mean, Spike Lee, his first film was really about barbershop, and it really kind of captured kind of that feeling, and it's an interesting thing. It doesn't exist as much now as it used to because there's not that collection anymore in urbanization, but that was definitely part of the neighborhood life.
One last question: when was the last time you visited a barbershop?
Probably.
No, I'm just picking on you. I just love it.
But actually, I go every 3 months because I trim my hair because it still works because it's just too long and too heavy. Just let it grow. I'm not an orthodox here, so.
You don't need to go to the barber, do you?
No, it's getting a little long.
Okay, well, I mean, this is a wonderful venue. We'll come here every year. We'll talk to you guys. I know you work so hard, and volunteers, and also people, work the things. But 42nd years. Tell us a little bit about the historically, because we lost one of the founder, Ali Magram, a few years ago.
Yeah, in 2020.
2020, yeah, we're in the midst of COVID, so we didn't really have a chance to. Well, tell us a little bit about what it means, what Ali Magram means to the film festival here.
Well, Al Milgram almost single-handedly created film culture in the Twin Cities. He founded the Film Society in 1962 at the University of Minnesota, and he was a curious explorer of cinema. He would travel to film festivals and find obscure films, and especially in Eastern Europe and elsewhere. And he had a strong affinity for classic Hollywood, and he brought that work to the Twin Cities, and was so passionate about those films, and his passion radiated to audiences, and he built up this deep appreciation among the arts-going community here. And then in the early 80s, decided to take the leap into film festivals, and so our organization then created the Minneapolis St. Paul International Film Festival, and it has been a highlight every spring since. And personally, I mean, Al's sort of taught me everything that I know about how to take a look at the world through the lens of cinema. I've always been a fan of the movies, of course, but he was able to share like that auteur voice. He helped relate that, especially with like the French New Wave and those kind of films that we would talk about when in my early career with him, and his legacy lives on. We hope. You can
feel the guy. I mean, I always come here and expect him standing in the corner somewhere.
Festival with their notebook, taking notes about a film. I mean, that's what it was. Yeah. Because the other side of going to film festivals is you just dive in and you go from film to film to film, and if you don't take notes, they kind of blur together sometimes. So
it should be. It's one story. Well, Jesse, thank you so much. Great job, Jesse, director of programming here and Minneapolis St. Paul International Film Festival, and Craig Rice, he's lead programmer here. He's the one selected some of the movies they're going to see. Is 200 movies from 70 different countries. Come and see it. I think it's still until the 27th. And there is a best of.
There'll be a best of fest the 27th through May 4th.
Okay, so come here and see. It's a wonderful. When it's a lousy weather in April, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Go to the movie. Come here. It's more than just a movie, as they alluded to. Venue, meet the director, and it's a wonderful venue here. We'll talk about it. We'll see you next week. Assalamu alaikum, and God bless you all.
blues' earliest days are lost to time, and many of those who made the first blues recordings disappeared.
The story of the blues is riddled with inaccuracies and you know, all this kind of mythology. It was all mystery.
Until a few young men decided to go off in search of these legends.
These guys were obsessed with this sound.
If there was any chance of these people still being alive, it was worth whatever effort to get them in front of a microphone again.
Their quest brought them to Mississippi in the summer of 1964.
It was tense, and we drove into this.
We are not going to permit any outside group to come into this state.
The thought of getting in a car and kind of pointing it south and thinking that it would be easy enough to find a performer like Sunhouse, I mean, it's like Bigfoot hunting. There was so little information for them to go on.
3 white kids and 1 black guy in a Volkswagen. Yeah, in a Volkswagen.
Well, there's 2 trains running, and they're running this way. One leaves at midnight, other at the break of day, at the break of day, at the break of day. Oh, Lordy. Oh, Lordy.
There were 2 trains running that summer, and they would meet one fateful Sunday in June.
Well, there's 2